Having worked with people for 15 years, I see that kind of cravings and hunger almost takes up their consciousness for like 100% of the day, pretty much all their waking hours. To have something that helped people to mitigate this is, I thought at the time, was absolutely incredible, and I still do think.
What can they do right now to start the process of behaviour change for them?
Find yourself a coach. When a coach is setting a goal with someone, the fact that they're driven to set it themselves increases the likelihood that someone's going to feel motivated for that goal. Essentially, identify what it is that you want to change. Consider, is that actionable? How much of a small step is it? It might be that you really need to dial it down, because this needs to be a very specific, achievable first step. There's
a lot in the news at the moment around weight loss medication and celebrities from, here to Hollywood, using and abusing these medications. What are your sort of thoughts on that as a coach working in this space? Hello and welcome back to the Men's Manual XY, our bonus episode where we dig just that little bit deeper into the topic we discussed in the main episode. And today's topic is that of behaviour change. And we are joined by Voi's very own behavioural change expert, Ms. Anna Mullany. Did I get it right? No.
Mrs. Anna Mullany.
Mrs. Anna Mullany.
You can just say Anna Mullany without the
Anne Mullany. So
Anna
off camera, we were
Mullany.
talking about how much of a mouthful it is to say, but I'm very pleased to say that you have stuck around on the sofa where we can get a little bit geekier and dig into some of the science behind behavioural change. So obviously, you're a behavioural change expert. How did you get into that?
It's been a journey. I have been in the health coaching industry essentially for 15 years now. I started out with a degree in sport and exercise science.
Okay.
Finished that degree and I was like, what the hell do I do with this? But it's a really general degree, so it gives you a really good foundation in physiology, health psychology, biomechanics is also part of it if you want to go down that path. But essentially, I graduated with this kind of dual interest in physiology and health psychology. And my first job out of uni was working for a weight loss company as a telephone-based health coach. So I got into this role and I started to be able to use this technique called motivational interviewing, which is a coaching technique where you kind of guide people through their change. And I started to really appreciate the importance of language and relationships in how you guide people through your change journey and how that can really impact on someone's mindset as a key part of change. I had actually had a physiology master's at King's College lined up to go and do after a year of working there, but I just felt so passionate about health coaching and nutrition at the time that I decided to switch that up, and I went and I did a master's in nutrition that also had a coaching qualification alongside it. So I'm a nutritionist with a particularly special interest in coaching for behaviour change, particularly as it relates to nutrition. And my career has gone in the direction of supporting people on weight management journeys. And I kind of started out as a health coach, and then over time I've been able to have all these different experiences, getting more into, as well as the one-to-one delivery and the importance of using different evidence-based techniques when you're supporting people on a one-to-one basis to be able to motivate them effectively, but also thinking about it from a more zoomed out level. I've had the opportunity to work with professors of health psychology, getting more into kind of the academics of how you design an impactful behavior change intervention for weight loss in a more zoomed out way as well. If you think of one-to-one as the zoomed in bit, and then from the top level view as well, there's ways of designing interventions or programs in an evidence-based way to be the most impactful that they could possibly be. So and now here I am at Voy, which is fantastic. 15 years into my career, where I work with the human side of what we do with coaching one-to-one and supporting people on those really important change journeys, as well as the other side of what we do, which is creating a fantastic app that supports people and a fantastic program that supports people, and also how we shape and create that in the most impactful way possible, using the evidence that's available to us to do that, and translating it to a digital context as well. So that's me.
Well, I think something that has come out not only in the start of this episode, but certainly in the main episode that we had in the Men's Manual, is how passionate you are about behavioural change. 100%. So why is behavioural change so important?
Making change is really tough. And I think that when you're in the thick of it, it's really difficult to see clearly what you should do. And also, many people don't realize the importance of mindset and how you should structure that journey in order to achieve success. So essentially what behavior change does is it takes a really challenging journey, but it gives you kind of a map to understand, okay, well, where are my challenges? What am I dealing with right now? What do I need to change? What is my goal? Thinking about your goals and how you get there, and then the different steps that you can take in order to work towards your long-term goal, and the kind of steps that you can take that will make it easier for you to get there, because this is a studied area. So I work with motivational interviewing as a technique for driving coach to client conversations, which is a technique which is very person-centered, which means it puts someone at the center of their own change experience. The coach kind of becomes a guide that's able to question and reflect and really understand them on an individual level, and ask the right questions in order to guide them towards the place that they want to be at as well. The difference with health coaching is that there's the advice component too, which isn't strictly a part of motivational interviewing necessarily, because with motivational interviewing, you're always trying to elicit the ideas from them. And that's really important.
Kind of like Inception. A little bit. Trying to plant the seed. This is your idea. This is your idea.
No, it's not hypnosis. But essentially it's drawing out what's already there to instill a sense of confidence, and then helping them to build on that. And where advice is given, it's always collaborative. You always make sure that it fits with that person's lifestyle. You always make sure that it's something that they feel motivated to do. Is that thing attractive to you? We know from social cognitive theory, which is theory I like to work with as part of my behavior change designing process, that people don't want to work on goals if they don't feel attractive to them. They won't be motivated to work on goals. So making sure that when you're setting goals with people, that they are attractive and they do feel personally driven to achieve that is really important. So that's kind of motivational interviewing in a nutshell. I'm sure we'll come back to that a little bit more, but also what I work with is something called behavior change technique taxonomy.
Not taxidermy.
not
taxidermy. Not stuffing animals.
Nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Not for me, no thanks. But essentially, this taxonomy has been created by Susan Michie and associated researchers at University College London, and they've identified 93 different types of behavior change technique, essentially. So what this allows us to do in the research is to understand what types of techniques are most impactful for people trying to change their behaviors in different ways. I work specifically in weight loss. So when I'm researching, I will look to understand, okay, what are the most impactful techniques for people looking to change their lifestyles with a weight loss outcome? So I'm able to see, okay, these are the kind of top techniques, the most powerful techniques for people. How do we work that into the way that we design a program, the way that coaches work with people, the way that an app is created with a fantastic product team who do all the excellent techie bits that I marvel at, in order to create an impactful journey that actually will create change for them, both in the short term, but also in the long term, because ultimately we don't want people having to consistently come back to this, right? There's no point in making change unless it's going to be lasting change. So by using these tools and techniques, our goal is that we empower people sufficiently to have the outcome where they're able to do this themselves for the long term. Let me just give some context to these techniques, because I think that might help. So some examples of tools and techniques that can be really useful are things like setting goals, setting behavioural goals. So that could be anything from, I will have half a plate of vegetables with my lunch and dinner, to actually, I want to start a journaling practice, which is more kind of emotional well-being orientated. So I will journal for 10 minutes before bed 5 nights a week, being another goal. So you can kind of use that goal setting approach really flexibly.
Yeah.
It's just got to be done right. It's got to be an effective goal, which means it's got to be specific. It's got to be attractive to the person. It's got to be progressible over time. All these different things that play into if a goal is going to work for you or not.
Yeah.
Other strategies include little things like self-monitoring. So for a weight loss context, that would include kind of inputting, let's say you take a picture of your food when you have your lunch and dinner, to be able to track how your nutrition goals are going. And again, if you wanted to change a goal, change a behavior, even for example, smoking, maybe you're trying to cut down, and so you're self-monitoring each time you have a cigarette, you're taking a tally, because maybe you've set a goal for yourself that you want to have maybe 4 or 5 in a day or something, cutting down from 10. So you're able to have that goal and track it. So there's these little tools that make up the finer points of an intervention that just give it more structure and purpose, which is so useful for clarity around exactly the steps that you're going to be taking in order to kind of make that change in the long term. Because really the thing that you have the impact on is right now, right? Yeah. And your right now behaviors are going to impact upon future you, which can feel quite contextual and far off right now.
Yeah.
So these techniques help to bring it into the present and help you to start feeling more confident and competent now as you start to achieve things and feel changes on the day to day.
How important is that? Because I know from personal experience that it's almost like the weight of future decisions and future actions that you have to make, and also the weight of past decisions that you've made, really can impact the here and now and how you take sort of each step by step by step. So how important as a coach is it to bring people back to the here and now and make sure that the next action or the next behavior is the most important?
Yeah. Do you know what? I feel like this is important for a couple of different reasons. But firstly, it can feel so overwhelming thinking about everything you want to achieve, right? And I think that can put people in a state of almost analysis paralysis. You're like, oh, where shall I start? This thing is so massive. It almost feels quite intimidating. So what these do is kind of reframe the moment to, okay, this is quite far off and over here. And yes, it feels big, but these steps allow me to break it down and actually start ticking off achievable wins now. And when someone starts accomplishing things, it gives them a sense of accomplishment. It reinforces an ability to be able to do something, which builds someone's confidence in their ability to be able to do it. And ultimately, we know that if someone is going to get to a place where they have lasting behavior change, then a concept called self-efficacy is really important. And self-efficacy is essentially your belief in yourself to be able to actually carry out a specific behavior. So by the time someone's finished on our program, we want them to feel really confident that they're carrying out a really nice, balanced lifestyle. And they've developed some really great supportive habits that they feel confident in their ability to be able to do on a day-to-day basis. And those small wins, those small steps are a key piece of the formula in helping someone get there.
So if we're looking at giving somebody a bit of a cheat sheet, so somebody listening is looking to change a behavior that they have, what would be kind of your top 3 super accessible, low-hanging fruit habits that they could make to start to build that behavioral change?
So that's a really good question. So essentially, I would want to take a step back first of all and understand, why do they want to change this behavior? What is motivating them to make this change? Because ultimately, when we know their motivation is in a more powerful place, we know that they're going to be more driven to change their behavior and for it to be more of a lasting change as well. So as a coach, we would start with identifying how important is this change to you? Why is it important? If it's an 8 out of 10, why isn't it a 6 out of 10 where 10 is really important? And a lot of the time it'll be around the changes it's going to bring for them in their life, how much more energetic they'll feel, about sustaining, feeling healthy in the long term, so they age in a healthy way and sort of that energy to bring to grandkids, etc., etc. So that's about understanding something that we call intrinsic motivation. So motivation exists on kind of a continuum.
Yeah.
When we're more externally driven, we're more motivated to kind of avoid a punishment of some kind. So, for example, getting sick, or we have been told by someone to go and change our behavior, like a doctor. Yeah. Which can be really good as an initial motivator. But actually, if we want to see sustained change, it's about moving someone to the more intrinsic motivation side of the spectrum. And that is about understanding how your change that you want to make is aligning with your values and what you perceive to be important as a person. So eventually this change becomes part of your identity. I'm a healthy person, I'm an active person, because it aligns with my values of freedom, of having energy to live my life, being there for my kids, that kind of stuff. So you can feel that the change. Did you feel the shift there almost from the external to that kind of intrinsic driver? Feels a lot more powerful for people. So part of the process is about helping them to see what their intrinsic motivation sounds like and feels like and looks like for that person. And then it's about, okay, right, so we know what the big picture is, what you want to achieve in the future, and why. You've got your why, which is going to hopefully work to keep you motivated throughout your journey, and particularly motivated at the beginning, because it can feel really powerful for people when they've first spoken about that. because often people don't know what their why is. And then we get into the what. So what are we going to change to help you get there? And that piece is about identifying a behavior. First of all, we want to make sure that this behavior, it's really clear what they want to do, right? So we would make sure that the language is right. So it's not avoidance, it's approach. It's telling me what I want to be doing, not what I want to be avoiding. So a good example of that is I don't want to snack in the evening. Now that's a bad, I should say not bad. That's not a useful way to frame a goal, because essentially it gets you thinking about what I shouldn't be doing versus being a useful replacement behavior that I could do instead, which is much more constructive. So instead we might think about, I will choose a healthy snack in the evening, like some hummus and carrot sticks or some apple and peanut butter or something like that. So we do a habit swap. So we're really mindful of the positive stating language of that goal. Then we want to make sure that goal is really specific. So we're thinking about exactly what it is we're going to be doing, when we're going to be doing it, where we're going to be doing it, if that's relevant. Sometimes you can create a really helpful thing called implementation intentions, which is where you tie a specific behavior to an existing behavior that you've already got going on in your routine, which is a great little hack. So
it's like stacking habits.
Habit stacking is an implementation intention. So, when I have my morning cup of coffee, I will then go for a 15-minute walk. When I brush my teeth in the morning, I will then do a 10-minute meditation. So it allows you to tie new habits to things that are already existing part of your day. I made one the other day for brushing my dog because she's a doodle and she gets matted and I haven't been good enough at staying on top of it. So I said, when I feed her dinner just before, I will give her a brush. So that's an example of where you can bring in a really nerdy example of where you can bring in implementation intentions for all sorts of different things.
So I, when I'm working with, I've worked with a couple of clients for specific magazine shoots, for the cover of magazine shoots where they're going to have their top off. And something I always do to them is like, for the month in the lead up to it, every time you brush your teeth, so it's 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening, you're in front of a mirror, you've usually got your shirt off, so really work on tensing your abdominals in the way that they need to be tensed when you're on set and when you're doing your shoot. And the difference that you see with, I said, anchoring and stacking those habits, which they're already doing, because it actually gets them to do it. Within a week, I can tell if they're doing it or not. Because if you just go, tense your abs for 6 minutes a day, or find a mirror and tense your abs for 5-6 minutes a day, they won't do it. But if you anchor it to that whilst you're brushing your teeth, look in the mirror and tense your abs how you're going to need to tense them for the shoot, you'd be surprised. The results are so much different.
You're bringing behavior change coaching into
Didn't even know
PT
it.
practice.
Look at that. Didn't even know it.
Natural coach. That's amazing. So that can be a really, really helpful tool, that implementation intention part of it. And it just adds to kind of how specific you can get that goal, because without the specificity element, it seems kind of vague and conceptual. It's just out there. You're going to do it at some point, but you don't really know when, which increases the likelihood that it's not going to get done, essentially. Again, coming back to that attractiveness element, when a coach is setting a goal with someone, the fact that they're driven to set it themselves increases the likelihood that someone's going to feel motivated for that goal. But also the coach would always check, does that feel right to you, that goal? Does that sound like a good place to get started with? Because remember, we can change it at any point. You're always in charge of your goals, and that reinforcement as well, that they're in charge of their goals is really, really important.
I think that's something that I've never really heard of from a coaching point of view. And it's really landing with me as being something really powerful. You're kind of empowering your client or
100%.
You're charged to take ownership and to almost create those goals, because it's very simple for a coach to say, are you doing this? Are you doing that? And it's almost, I don't know, we've talked about it in the previous episode of accountability.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting to hear your slant on how you're doing it slightly differently and the impact it has.
Yeah, 100%. And do you know what? It's not even my slant. It's my understanding of the research in how we help people to impact change in the most powerful way. And I spoke about this concept called intrinsic motivation, but we see in studies that if people are going to make change for the long term, the likelihood is far more increased if they're feeling intrinsically motivated to do that. And the way that we increase intrinsic motivation isn't just finding a why, it's also allowing people opportunities to feel competent, to feel relational connection to an experience, either they have a walking buddy or maybe that's their coach, and also to feel autonomous in their experience, which means that they have the ultimate say over the direction of their journey and are able to make any changes and at any time. So as part of a coach's role, it's really important to provide opportunities for all three of those things.
Yeah.
And autonomy is just such a key part of it. You know, you're never going to keep something up if someone's telling you what to do all the time. And also the consistency of it is going to fall down if you're constantly being told what to do. You need to understand, like, this is what works for me. This is what I want to do. And therefore you start having successful experiences in that, which reinforces it. And then you're much more able to keep it up for the long term, which is what we want. We don't want a flash in the pan change. We want long-term life change for people.
And so on the journey towards that sustainable long-term change that you're trying to drive, what do you find that most people that kind of step into your office, what are they really struggling with, or what do they struggle with on that behavioral change journey?
So it's really unique for everyone. Everyone has a completely different life set up and a completely different set of challenges. And part of being a coach, you need to understand like what's going on in their environment, what kind of personal attitudes that they might have that are acting as barriers to their change journey. Environmental challenges that people have might include things like they don't have a good space to go and exercise, but also they hold a personal belief that actually they're not an exerciser, or they feel uncomfortable exercising. They might not feel that they're a particularly confident cook. They, again, might not have an environment set up, which is a huge thing with deprivation and obesity and overweight, where they don't have a supportive environment around them because they exist in these kind of food deserts, so to speak, where actually there aren't shops around selling healthy food in close proximity, which is a massive issue when it comes to socioeconomic factors. So it's about trying to understand that person on an individual level, and generally that comes out in the wash over time. When you first speak to someone, it's often about, let me get to know you. I want to create this great relationship with you. I'm so excited to work with you and be your coach. Tell me about, what it is that you want to achieve, which is often about health and feeling great and long-term wellness. And we talk about the motivation piece. We identify where we think will be a good place to get started. And then, because we work with people week by week, we have the luxury of being able to kind of understand them as individuals. So it then becomes about, okay, so we had some challenges this week with the goals. Like, how are you feeling about it? What happened? Tell me more. Okay, yeah, that sounds challenging. Why don't we shift up and create a plan for the next time? So these goals that you set, they're not fixed bodies, but they're dynamically shifting steps that you constantly check in with together and constantly strategize for. So, you know, by the end of this journey, people are really aware of the different lifestyle factors that they're dealing with, that are challenging for them, and go away with a set of tools that are supported by their coach in order to manage them themselves. I always say to people when I'm working with them, weight loss is there, but let's think about it almost like a background thing, and we'll focus on the life changes and the health element and all the positive things this change is bringing you. And then people almost get to this point where weight loss happens as almost like a happy side effect.
I kind of got the impression that talking to Stephen in the previous episode, that he's very much in that place where the scale weight is important, but it's the behavioral change and the change in mindset, and that just more of that intrinsic belief and shift in his own self-image, which is really driving his transformation and his journey.
100%. I just loved. You didn't even need me here. Stephen nailed it.
We did need you here. Thank you very much.
He nailed the description. Honestly, he just like framed that mindset so beautifully, where he was just he's so focused on the health and the holistic nature of wanting to get his stress, his sleep right, his nutrition right, his movement right, to feel energetic, to feel great in himself. And he is feeling great in himself. And you can feel great in yourself even when you're on a weight loss journey.
Yeah.
And he's demonstrating that so nicely.
And so I know we touched on it briefly in the previous episode, but there's a lot in the news at the moment around weight loss medication and celebrities from, you know, here to Hollywood, you know, using and abusing these medications. What are your sort of thoughts on that as a coach working in this space?
I think it's really difficult because this is a really powerful tool for so many. And I think the reputation that it has of being kind of the Hollywood drug almost cheapens the experience.
They see it as a quick fix, right?
So many people see it as a quick fix, 100%. It can cheapen the experience. I think it stigmatizes it for people. So it can place a bit of inherent shame and embarrassment around, oh, this is, you know, the Hollywood thing. Maybe it's just the next thing, the next flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Whereas actually it's a really innovative treatment that can support a lot of people that really need it. And those are the people that should be given access to this medication. As I said earlier, it's not just about getting skinny to fit into your Oscars dress. It's about being able to harness the power of it as a tool to be a key facilitator in your journey. And there's also this the quick fix kind of mindset you mentioned. There is a mindset around medication and other things that can support people with their weight loss journey, that this thing's going to be my magic bullet. You know, this is the kind of the answer to all my problems. All I have to do is this, and then everything will be better. But actually, it's like behavior change. It's a tool, right? It's another tool as part of your box of strategies that you can take with you into your journey that will optimize your journey and facilitate and hopefully ease the way. But it's still really important that it's used as a tool and combined with lifestyle change to ultimately get those long-lasting outcomes that you want to achieve by taking a medication.
So you've been a coach in the weight loss space for a long time, and it almost seems like a very recent thing, the introduction of some of the weight loss medications. Did you embrace them straight off the bat? Did you have any questions? Were you suspicious? Like, what was your sort of gut reaction when these tools became available?
So I was working for a company at the time who were actually working really closely with the company that have created some of these key medications. So I was there very close to the beginning of these being introduced as weight management tools. And I was really intrigued, to be honest with you. Obviously, there's always that initial feeling of trepidation. You know, what kind of impact does this have? Like, you know, you put your scientist hat on, you try and understand, is this going to be kind of a long-term fix for people? Is this going to be kind of a flash in the pan, magic bullet kind of mindset approach? But as I understood it more from my perspective, I saw the power and the impact of it as being really quite transformative for people. Having worked with people for 15 years, I see that kind of cravings and hunger and getting that right almost takes up their consciousness for like 100% of the day, pretty much all their waking hours, thinking about, you know, am I going to be eating enough to keep me full? Am I going to be having a craving? And lots of it is talking about, you know, how we make sure people get enough protein. So we're managing kind of snacking and that kind of thing throughout the day. So constantly talking about cravings and snacking and hunger. So to have something that helped people to mitigate this is, I thought at the time, was absolutely incredible, and I still do think is absolutely incredible. But for me, it was really important that it's seen, again, coming back to the tool thing, as part of a bigger picture of someone's journey, that we educate people that, yes, this is incredibly powerful, but we've got to combine it with the other parts of this formula that will help you to get the outcome that you want, which is the behavior change, the lifestyle change journey. It's also really important that we think about it from a maintenance perspective, because my gut feel was like, oh, I don't want this to be another thing that someone comes on, they lose a bunch of weight, and then, you know, so thinking about the program design piece, and actually it being really important to me as a behavior change professional that we help people not only combine it with lifestyle change, but also help them through the maintenance part of the journey, because the journey doesn't finish when you get to your goal weight. It's incredible when you get to your goal weight. And the journey shifts then to becoming a focus on how you keep going, how you keep creating this lifestyle that works for you, how we then think about life beyond the medication, you know, helping people to transition off taking medication and feel confident that their lifestyle is in a good place, that they're maintaining their weight, and helping people do that in a way that they feel reassured and confident in the journey as well. But ultimately, as I said before, obesity is an incredibly complex condition with many physiological factors impacting someone's journey as well. So to have something that can support you to manage those things is invaluable. And I really hope, as the industry innovates that these things are going to become more financially accessible for people over time, and part of a normal approach to treating or supporting people with obesity and overweight to achieve a healthy weight.
So if there's somebody listening right now and they, through our conversation, have come to the conclusion that there's a behavior that they want to change, what would be the piece of advice or the action point you would give them as soon as we've logged off and they've hung up on the podcast? What can they do right now to start the process of behavior change for them?
find yourself a coach. For sure. No, I'm kidding. I mean, obviously it's fantastic if you can work with a coach that's qualified in behavior change techniques to support you and be your guide. But if you don't have access to that, and also if you do have access to that, but you want to do additional things alongside it with your coach, then you essentially identify what it is that you want to change. Consider, is that actionable? How much of a small step is it? It might be that you really need to dial it down, because this needs to be a very specific, achievable first step. I always say to people, set a goal and then make it even simpler, right? This is just about giving yourself an opportunity to get a bit of a win. And that might even look like, hey, maybe there's something you've done in the past that you've got out of the habit of it, but you've had a routine with it before. So you can start there, for example. But you've got to identify this very small, specific step that's going to contribute to your long-term goal of where you're going to start right now. I would always say maximum kind of 2 to 3 small goals at a time. I prefer to work with 1 or 2. And then over time you can build more in as you start becoming confident with what you've set for yourself. Note it down, be very specific on the days and the times that you're looking to achieve this thing. You could even check on a daily basis with yourself and see how you got on with it. So check off if you managed to achieve that thing for the day, and do some planning for the next day of when you're going to do it the next day. Is there anything that you need to get prepared in order to help you to achieve that goal? So you can create your environment in the right way to support you to achieve that goal. So essentially it's setting the thing, tracking the thing, making sure you've got stuff organized on a regular basis to achieve the thing, and then doing a little bit of a review on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to check in with yourself and be honest with yourself on, like, you know, how am I getting on with this? Is this something I still want to work on? Do I feel like it's become really easy and therefore I can maybe build on it a bit? You know, if I was walking 3 times, maybe I can go 4 or 5 times this week. Or maybe actually, if I'm truly honest with myself, I can look back at the last 2 weeks and haven't done it. You know, that's normal. We set things and, you know, we don't achieve them because we're human. And it might be that the goal was too ambitious, or maybe there's something else in our life that was stopping us from achieving that goal. So it's doing a bit of analysis, understand what was stopping you. If it was too hard, literally this is your thing, no one's watching you here. Like, you know, make it more simple, give yourself an opportunity to dial it down and get those small wins, because it's the small wins that are going to be important for you. And if there was something in your way, something stopping you, understand, you know, what do I have control over in that situation, and what can I influence to make it easier for me to achieve that goal, and try again using that plan. And over time of a bit of developing, tweaking, hopefully achieving, giving you that confidence, you know, it's a journey. Keep it dynamic.
Okay, so that is it for another fantastic episode of the Men's Manual XY, our bonus episode. This one focusing on behavioural change with behavioural change expert Anna Mullany. I got it right.
Woo-woo!
Big win. It's what's been on my mind for the entire podcast. Just make sure you get the name right on the outro.
Nailed it.
But I hope you guys enjoyed geeking out with us a little bit more and have taken some really valuable nuggets of advice and pieces of wisdom from Anna. It's certainly been incredibly insightful for my own sort of education and peace of mind. And there's certainly a load I'll take forward with some of the clients that I work with. So massive Thank you.
Pleasure.
Also, a huge thank you to you guys listening and watching at home. Without you, this show will not take place. So thanks for your time. Thanks for everyone who logs on, engages with our content, leaves us reviews, leaves us ratings, because that really does help this content be seen by more people and helps our community grow and thrive. This has been an incredible episode of the Men's Manual XY. I'm Shaun Stafford. Thank you for listening, and we will see you again next time.